Hey guys, we got a lot of building going on behind us. We might hear a little noise in this video. Today I want to talk about being poor in the Philippines versus being poor in the US. And there is a substantial difference, and I'm going to get into this a little bit. A lot of guys are thinking that, and I get these calls all the time from the US, is that, hey Steve, I'm almost homeless here in the US. I'm better off coming to the Philippines, and at least for the money that I have, I can have an apartment and stuff. Well, you can have that in the U.S. too if you go to certain states or if you apply for certain things. A lot of people don't go to churches and don't seek out help. They just don't do it. They're afraid to seek out help in certain places, and a lot of places they have more help for veterans, for homeless veterans. Like Colorado has the tiny houses and stuff. Now, if you come to the Philippines, you're going to lose a lot of your medical care, a lot of things you'll lose. And if you get sick over here or something, over here it's going to be different because, yeah, it's cheaper. And some people think, well, Steve, if I'm living on $1,000 a month or $800 a month, I can live like a Filipino and still have some money left over, because they say you can live like a Filipino for $400 or $500. I says it's not the same. That means having no AC. It might be having a fan, living in a little apartment. It's going to be hot. Yes, there's times at night you can open the windows and it's cooler and stuff. But I mean, during the day, you're going to be hot. You can go to the malls, get cooler there. But it's a big change. Is life going to be better over here than it is in the United States? I suppose in some ways it could be. In other ways it wouldn't be. But if something happens to you, and you get very sick, or you get cancer or something like that, you're not going to be able to hop on a plane and go back to the U.S. and seek out medical care in the U.S. because it takes a while to get all that stuff in place. If you're homeless back in, I know at least in Massachusetts, there's Mass Health, and they have health care for the poor. Homeless, you can walk into a hospital pretty much, and they'll find something that fits you, and you can get it taken care of. Over here, that's not going to happen at all. A lot of people think, well, I'm a veteran, so I can go to the clinic here and I can get taken care of that. No, you can't. They only take care of service connections over here. There's a lot of things that a lot of people don't understand, but people still come here anyway, that are really poverty stricken, and they think that they can make it over here. The majority of people are pretty well thought out expats that usually come in. Occasionally we get those people that are dirt poor, and we see what happens to them. It usually takes place on YouTube. We've seen some really poor people come into this country and they've ended up in jail for not paying their Bureau of Immigration fees, or they don't have enough money to leave after their 36 months or something, and something usually happens. We have a couple of people here that I know of. One used to be in our group. He left our group, and he's poor. He lives here, and he basically hides from the Bureau of Immigration, and we see those. We see those all the time. Every year we see one or two of them come through here, and once they start talking, that they don't have a lot of money. Some of them might hit you up for money, or most of them don't, but some of them might hit you up for money. Hey Steve, you got $10 I can borrow off you till next week or whatever, because they're all through their money for that month. Their money's gone. A lot of the guys come over here and they try to live with some girl that's poor, and live in the house that's basically a poor, like a squatter's area or a poor home. And we've seen some of those guys on YouTube too that do this stuff. And it's very tough for an American to switch over unless you were homeless, to live like that. I could not live like that. I don't think most Americans could live like that. But remember, guys, when if you're thinking about coming over here and you're on a super low budget, I always tell people $2,000 to $3,000 is still the sweet spot. I think if you make more than that, that's better. I know some people, when they retire, that they only have a set amount of money that they have, and we have some guys coming over here on $1,500. $1,500 is probably the cutoff. I wouldn't come over here with less than that. Don't go off these guys that are living off $400 or $300 a month or whatever that you see in some of these videos. That's a bunch of horse crap that they're happy. They're not happy. Nobody is happy living on $300 a month. I don't know one person in the world that's happy living off of $300 or $400 a month or $500 a month. They're not happy. Even Filipinos, for the most part, are not really content. They might be happy, but they're not really content living on $400 or $500 a month. It's just the way it is. Now, living in the United States, if you're living off of a certain amount of money and you only got so much income coming in, the thing is, we get the cicadas here making that loud whistling noise, loud vibrating noise, whatever you want to call it. But anyway, if you're back in the U.S. and you need care, you can go to a church, you can go to a food program. There's all kinds of things for veterans, like I've said before, and they'll help you. There's in Massachusetts, you got the Chelsea Soldiers Home. If you're homeless, for $300 a month, you can go down to the Chelsea Soldiers Home. You can check in there, and they'll feed you. They'll give you a certain amount of health care. They'll give you a room. You get TV, Wi-Fi. You have just about everything you need there, And it's a beautiful place overlooking Boston, and there's many other facilities in. I think Holyoke is another one. I'm not sure if they have a thing for the homeless, but there's a lot of homeless programs. Like in Haverhill, they have some too for veterans. But there's also a lot of places like in Lawrence, Massachusetts, for the homeless. They're not the greatest, but at least you'll get a meal every day and a place to sleep. And granted, there's a lot of drug addicts and stuff like that. That's the tough part about being homeless in the States, is the drug addicts. Whereas over here, you do get away from that, and that's a good thing. A lot of the people here, you can survive without being around drug addicts, and that's probably the only upside to it. Granted, if you're living in the city, it might be a little bit different in Manila, but around here, if you're poor, I will say that the majority of the people around here don't take drugs. They just don't. They're not on drugs. They're not taking any of the typical drugs. Most of the people here can't afford them, and they don't want to get involved with them. Filipinos are built differently. There used to be a drug problem here back in the 80s, and that kind of went away after Duterte, which Duterte did serve a good purpose here as far as that goes, I think, because he scared people into staying off of drugs. But I will say this, be really careful, guys. Be mindful of your situation, because if you are poor and you are considering coming over here, and I used to get a lot more of these calls than I do now, and they've kind of slowed down, I think, because maybe the states are picking up more for homeless or poor people. I used to get calls from a guy from Arlington, Massachusetts, and he was really poor. He was a musician all his life, never paid it much into Social Security, so he didn't really have any real pensions or anything per se. And he was older now, and he found out that he probably should have put some money aside. So he was poor. He was thinking about coming over here with less than $500, and not a good idea. I told him, stay home. I said, if you come over here, dude, you're not gonna be able to make it. You're not gonna be able to make it. And you don't want to become a YouTuber and try to start out, and it takes a couple of years to really hit the point where you start getting paid. Although over here in the Philippines, I do find a little bit faster that people are getting onto YouTube, and usually within 3 to 6 months, they can usually make it pretty decent. But anyway, guys, I just wanted to talk about that. My recommendation is, if you're poor, stay back in the States. If you got $1,500 or more a month, come on over. I think you can make it. Just make sure you have some sort of health insurance or what have you. Anyway, guys, God bless. Take care. I hope you enjoyed today's show.